LCARA HAMRadio presents a Time Machine Tuesday vintage video release.
Welcome to Lake Cumberland Amateur Radio Association. You can find us at LCARA.net, on Facebook, on YouTube, and on Instagram.
Well, hello, this is Chris, KY4CKP.
And this is Brian, KY4BDP.
And we're here today to talk a little bit about some upcoming field day interesting components. And one of those is going to be our portable bags or boxes for operations. And we're out here at Pulaski County Park with our trailer on the road, LCARA in the field. And we want to go over our boxes just to give you some examples about what you could put together to help make it more convenient to get your rig out and use it in the great outdoors and get out of the shack now and then.
Absolutely. With either of these form factors, you can take it on the road with you. Chris and I travel a lot. We have jobs that we go to different cities around the country and sometimes outside of the country. This form factors, or these form factors, are perfect for traveling, camping, hiking, the SOTA, the POTA, the HOTA that we talk about. And we wanted to go through each of our bags or boxes just to kind of show you what we have. Are they perfect?
No. Will they work?
Yes. So could you add things to these solutions? Well, certainly you could. We've just got a few things that we use. We've thrown a few things in that we may use, but there are probably several items we're going to always use, right?
Right. And a box like this or a bag like this, just like your equipment at home in the shack, it's going to change, it's going to evolve as you use it, as you figure out where the weak points are, where the pain points are. And that's fine. That's how it should be. And it's part of the fun of having to buy that next piece of gear, to be quite frank.
Absolutely. And I've already swapped out 2 or 3 things for my little box here, and he's probably swapped out 2 or 3 things since he put his together. So it's definitely an evolution. You want to start with the bag?
Sure. Let's go ahead and just go through this fairly quickly. This is a fairly inexpensive bag that I purchased. I already had this one, but if you're going to go out and buy a bag, you can get a bag. Think about your equipment and the size of your equipment a little bit. You can get bags from $15 to $30. If you're going to do that, you may already have a backpack or something laying around. It doesn't have to be a lot of money. You don't need a $200 or $300 bag to put your radio gear in. And I've just got a kind of a boonie hat just in case it's sunny or maybe a little bit of rain or something going on. And of course, you might have a jacket or something with you as well. And so I'm going to start from the back of the bag and move forward, show some of the main components that I've got in here. I did a little bit of work. I put in a little bit of extra padding in this bag. So I've got my main power cable for a Yaesu FT891. So that's a rig capable of up to 100 watts. And the main adaptation I made for this cable is it comes with bare wire ends, and with the power that I may use on the field, I went ahead and just got some decent alligator clips and soldered a nice connection for those. So I can connect to anything that has any kind of bare terminals or anything. We've just, and you'll be seeing a battery and portable power box video coming out, and there's lots of options where you can use this. Other folks are going to want to use Anderson power poles. That's what Brian uses.
I typically use the Anderson power poles, but it's because my mentor uses Anderson power poles and he loves them, so why not use those? But there's nothing wrong with alligator clips.
And someday I may move to Anderson power poles myself. For now, this was a pretty easy option to go to, and some pretty simple soldering skills. I'm not an expert solderer. I was still able to make this happen, so it's not a big deal. All right, I've got a nice desktop stand microphone in here. You don't have to use this kind of a unit yourself, but for the Yaesu, I got that. We'll see in a minute that I have a handy talkie in here. Never have enough rags and things just in case you need that.
Always have extra rags.
I've got a little piece of non-slip material in here in case I need it. And here in my biggest compartment for now, I have a full size, this is the MFJ 949E not auto tuner, but manual tuner. And this does a great job. You've got a couple of the connectors in the back. You can bring your antenna in and then go to your rig in, antenna out. And you can have power. You can put up a tuner this. It has its own power connector. Now for this unit, and of course you have your ground connection. For this unit, you don't actually need power for this. It's one of the nice things about it. It's a little bit bigger, it's not real heavy, but you don't actually need power for this, okay? The power simply has a light here in the meter. You don't want or need the light to run on. You don't have to have a 12-volt source for this. If you'd like to see that, back at the shack, I plug it in typically. But pretty nice thing about it. Again, it's not real heavy, it's just kind of big. So not a bad way to go. I'll probably get a smaller tuner, maybe an auto tuner at some point in the field, right? It'll be a nice gear upgrade that will just have to happen at some point. You always have to have your next purchase on the books, right? And then next up from that, in a slightly smaller pocket, with some additional foam and things, I have the radio. So we'll slip this guy out. Get my foot down. And so here we have an FT819 or 891 radio. I've got some of the Zero, I forget the name, but these nice aluminum ears. You can get 3D
Rails,
printed
yeah.
ears for protection on the rails in OD green. I got those on there. I've got my connector for microphone. I've also got I think I've got the hand mic in here as well. So nice portable radio. Gives you up to 100 watts of output power. Can do 10 through, I know 80 meters, maybe 160 meters. You've got your connector on the back. You got your power connector. You've got some accessory ports, USB. We'll probably be doing some videos coming up. I can do some computer control with this just with a regular USB cable, and a classic A to B cable. Has the kind of big square end on it. You might remember those for printers and things were pretty common. So we might get into that. A little bigger and heavier than say something like the 818s and 817s. Doesn't have an internal battery, but it can go to 100 watts. I can record my CQ call so that if you're contesting and things like that, you can actually record the call and have it play it for you so you don't wear out your voice that day. So we'll be going into some features on our radios before too long as well. So I've got my radio, and then I've got various add-ons in here. So I've got the hand mic. If I wanted to just use a regular hand mic, I've got that. Screwdriver, in case I need to adjust the guardrails or anything. You always need string and twine and things in any kind of bag or any outdoor activities. I've got some bright stuff as well in case I want to mark things. Right angle adapter for my antenna. Depending on where I'm going to set up my antenna, we're going to be doing our antenna reviews coming up soon. My main one, and it'll be one of our review units, is the Wolf River Coil Silver Bullet 1000 Take It Along TIA. And I've got a right angle adapter because that one has a tripod that sits low to the ground. So that gets me out of that unit nicely. And depending on where I may set it up, I may not want to have to come right out the back of my unit. So I just got another right angle adapter in case that works better. If I'm at a park like today and I'm in a shelter or something, it just may work better. So it doesn't hurt to have a right angle adapter for that. Also in here, several pockets in this bag. Don't be afraid to cheat. I've got the nifty guide for the radio to help make it easy. We've got our phones and tablets and things, and I've got documentation on a source available like Dropbox and things. But you may end up someplace where you don't have very good internet access or connectivity, or you may lose some power, although we've talked about power, so hopefully that's not going to happen to us. But it doesn't hurt to have these. These are laminated. They're relatively rainproof. Not very expensive. It's always good to have these for your radios. Very convenient. I've also got a map, depending on where I may want to go that day. It's always good to have a map with you. I've got a handy talkie with an extended battery. Okay, for 2 meter, 70 centimeter type operations. I've got a little stub connector for antennas that I might use for the radio as well. In my vehicle, and we'll talk about these later, I've also got 25 watt 2 meter, 70 centimeter. And then again, another cloth basically. And I've got plenty of some additional pockets. I've got plenty of connection points. As I figure out additional things that I want to have or need to have for in the field work, it'll be pretty easy to add them to this. I usually have a poncho in my car, things like that, in case the weather is a little challenging like it is today. So for right now, that's what I've got. I can take a table or something, or go to a park bench, go to a shelter, and set up. The antenna's not very big. We're going to be covering those antennas here coming up. Doesn't take a whole lot. It's pretty man portable, okay? And again, there's a lot of price points where you can start out. You may start out just doing some 2 meter, 70 centimeter work. You don't have to have anything very expensive. You can get on the air with various kinds of handy talkies, and there's various price points. Baofeng's a common inexpensive one to get started on. They're inexpensive. You can have 2 or 3 of them pretty easily. You, your buddy, your brother or sister, whoever it's going to be. And again, the antennas for that buried in a pile here.
All right, so let's take a look at my little Go box. Chris got a lot of gear here. When I got started, I wanted to keep it as light as possible, but I also wanted a form factor, something I already had around the house. Technically, I already had some bags as well, but I went with the ammo can. I saw an example of this on another channel, and I thought, let's go with the ammo can. This really nice form factor. Won't put it on my back, but I can certainly carry it easily. And right out of the get-go, what do I pull out? Well, a few wires here, but yes, I have my radio. Similar to Chris's, just a little smaller form factor. I have the rails on the left and right hand side, but this is the FT818. Now, this is the venerable FT817-818 form factor that a lot of you are aware of. Very popular radio. There's so many features on both of these radios today. 6 watts. It's not as powerful as the 891, but at the same time, I've made contacts, heck, made a contact with my own brother 569 miles away with 6 watts. It's not like on many nights you have to have that much power. Sometimes it helps, but you don't necessarily have to have that much power. And right there, I have the radio. Now, this particular setup that I've got also utilizes the LDGZ817 tuner. If I'm doing 40 meters, 80 meters, 20 meters on a dipole, for instance, I probably need to tune it a little bit. The tuner is a really neat little form factor that rides right on top with the web strap that you see here, plus the microphone, of course, and the tuner just plugs into the back. I've also got the same connector on the back as the 891, which is the SO239, so you can take your PL259, just plug it right in. I do have one antenna that does not have that connector, so I've got to use an adapter to get it down. But in any event, really easily portable radio, and that's including the tuner. Of course, you don't have to have the tuner if your antenna is resonant. And then I've got a set of headphones. Folks, the contact that I made with Chris, KY4CKP, I could not have done without these earphones. And the reason was there was a lot of noise that night, and to hear Chris above the noise required some headphones. Now, these are some headphones that I already had. I'm in the IT field. I've got probably a half a dozen headphones that I've used over the years. These work really well. I don't use the mic, but I do use the headphone aspect of it. Now, earlier in the series that we've been going over, we talked about these batteries, and I told you this is the battery form factor that I use in my box. Here it is. This is the same form factor that you saw. Chris has a Duracell version of this. This is an Expert Power, really inexpensive and cheap, but easy to continue to charge if you need to, and you can always replace it at any time. And you'll notice the cable, Anderson power pole. All right. In fact, probably one of the things I should mention, and I'll move on, is that the power for this radio, I've actually got an adapter that has been 3D printed. We'll probably have a video on 3D printing stuff, but it allows me to connect an Anderson power pole instead of the default Yaesu connector, which is really poorly designed, to be quite honest. It's way too fragile. But in any event, I've got that 3D printed part, and now I can plug in the Anderson power pole from my battery or from some other power source. I've got a few other cables in here which I'm not going to pull out. I've got the tape measure. Who doesn't need a counterpoise?
That's all right.
Everybody needs a counterpoise.
Portable, custom length counterpoise right at your fingertips.
Come on, who doesn't need that? Yeah, it's a tape measure. But on this particular tape measure are the lengths that you're going to want to start out with for the length of counterpoise for a particular antenna that you might be using. Handy, nice to have. I've also got another pass-through connector here if I need to connect something else. Again, some additional cables. I've got an antenna in my Go box right off. This is a 72 meter ladder antenna. These are so easy to put up. And when you're camping, hiking, you just need a little extra reach. You want to be able to hear some of the signals that are out there. This is great. We've got a whole section on antennas coming up, so I'm not going to get into this in a lot of detail. Folks, that is basically my box. There's a few more cables in here. I've got some Sharpies and things for labeling, but on balance, that's what's in my box.
That's right. So similar ideas. You've got some similar ideas. Feel free to let us know in the comments below. Everybody's bag or box is going to be a bit different and custom for them. What works for you is what you want to put together and match it to the radio that you have and the kind of communications you want to do. Are you going to do a quick 30-minute, hour-long session at the park? Are you going to do some contesting with POTA or SOTA or those kinds of activities? Just match it up to what you want to do.
Absolutely. And keep in mind, you can make it as light or as heavy as you want, typically on the lighter side. And notice, other than my simple little ladder, we haven't talked about antennas yet, but we are going to have a number of antenna videos coming out soon.
Exactly. And he showed you the quick preview of that little ladder line. We've also got ladder line roll-up antennas for 2 meter 70 centimeter that, again, if you have a handy talkie, if that's what you're going out with, camping or whatever, again, easy to string up in a tree or something and get on the air and get actually amazing reception with those.
Absolutely.
So they work really well, and they're inexpensive to either build or to buy, in fact.
Well, let's go ahead and close the video for today. I'm KY4BDP.
I'm KY4CKP.
And we want to wish you guys happy HAMRadio outdoor activities.
And remember, Field Day 2019, it's almost here.
Almost here. 73.
73.